Welcome back to Sawteeth Tactical. Over this last year, Form 4 and Form 1 approvals have gotten much faster than they've historically been. Suppressors got to the point where people were getting them within a matter of days, sometimes within a matter of hours. And I believe that Form 1s were doing the same thing, like if people were doing SBRs. Now, when I say compared to how they used to be, my first suppressor took over 11 months. My last couple suppressors, this one took about 4 months. This one took about 2.5 months. And I only got those ones when I did because I emailed the FBI. But I'm not one of those people that gets fast approvals. And some people just don't, but a lot of people were. Well, are we still seeing those fast approvals? I just submitted a Form 1 SBR for this Mark 18 build right here. And it's been over a month so far without seeing that approval. So I started looking into it. I got the numbers in front of me. If that's interesting to you, make sure you're subscribed. And let's talk about, are we still getting quick approvals or not? So the reason I started looking into this is when I did file the Form 1 for the SBR on this gun. This is my Mark 18 build. If you guys have been following the channel, you probably already know that. And I know a lot of people are going to think it's ridiculous. Why would you pay $200 to put this piece of plastic instead of this piece of plastic on the back of your gun? Why SBR when pistol braces exist? And I can understand that. But I also get it like this. If I'm going to put the time and the effort and the money into making a gun exactly the way that I want it to be, well, then I want it to be exactly the way that I want it to be. And a Mark 18, for one thing, just doesn't look right without a stock on it. But for two, since SBRing all my other short guns a while back, I haven't shot with a brace again until recently when I finished this Mark 18 build. And while I always thought the SB tactical braces were just fine and they served a purpose very well, and they do, I realized now that I'm shooting with a brace again, it just feels janky compared to a real stock. That's all there is to it. And so when I think about all the other money that I've spent on firearms and firearm parts, it is worth $200 to me to be able to put a stock on my Mark 18. And that was the plan from the beginning. I mean, if I'm going to have suppressed guns, if I'm going to have SBRs, I'm going to have suppressed guns and SBRs. They're my favorite type of gun. And so this will be a 2-stamp gun. I've already paid for that stamp. But yet here we are over a month later. I haven't gotten the approval yet. And so I actually started asking around, asking online on one of the gun groups that I'm in. In fact, this gun group, the Male Team 6 group on Facebook, and seeing if those guys are getting fast approval still. And some of them still are, and some of them aren't. But the averages have gone up. And when I say up, not back to where they were 11 months, a year, stuff like that. But you also have to think about the way averages work. So in April of this last year, we were getting, and these are E-form numbers, not paper form numbers, because I think almost everybody is submitting them as E-forms these days, right? So in April last year, this year, 2024, the average E-form 1, which would be like to SBR something or to manufacture your own suppressor, which is totally legal. If you do it the correct legal way, the average was 32 days. And for an E-form 4 was 53 days. And that was during right when things were getting really fast and everybody was realizing that you can get suppressors super quick, and so people were jumping on the suppressor train. But you got to think of the way averages work. So if they're talking about 53 days for a Form 4, well, with all these people getting them in 1 day, 3 days, 5 hours, that also meant that there were people that were still waiting like a year. And there were those people. I did a lot of videos about this kind of thing during that time. I got comments from a lot of people getting them really quick and a few people that were still waiting a long time. And that's where they get that average number from. The average numbers are higher now, but before we get into that, let's have a quick word from our channel partner. If you'd like to help support Sawtooth Tactical, the very best way to do that is to click the first link in the description. That link is aura.com/sawtooth-tactical. If you use my link, you get a 2-week free trial. And you can quit anytime, but you probably want to stick with it as I have. What has Aura done for me? Well, I don't get any spam calls anymore. I don't get spam emails. I don't get calls from scammers. What they do is they find all the data brokers that have your information online. They submit opt-out requests on your behalf so that you don't get scammers and spam calls anymore. But they do a lot of other things too. They have a VPN, which just helps to protect your privacy. They've got a ton of stuff, and it all comes in at a very low price. If you stick with it after that 2 weeks, it is only $12 a month. I think Aura is pretty cool because they sponsor gun-related channels, which not a lot of sponsors are willing to do that. And it really helps channels like mine be able to produce this kind of content. YouTube doesn't really like to monetize gun-related videos anymore. And so sponsors like Aura make things like Mark 18 builds possible. So check it out. It's definitely worth trying it out for 2 weeks. Like I said, you're probably going to want to stick with it. I don't have to worry about scammers anymore. I don't have to worry about spam calls, spam emails. And that's been really nice. I use my phone for work, and so I have to answer calls that I don't recognize all the time. And none of them are scammers anymore. And I really like that. So again, check it out. First link in the description, aura.com/sawtooth-tactical. I can almost guarantee that you're going to love it. Check it out. So just to get right to the point, this is where we're at now. From April 2024, 32 days average for an E-Form 1, 53 days average for an E-Form 4. So about a month for Form 1 if you're doing like an SBR, and about 2 months for a Form 4 to get a suppressor approval. Average, remember. A lot of people were getting them a lot faster than that. Well now, here we are in August of the same year. Now, an E-Form 1, they're saying 55 days. So about 2 months average to SBR something. And an E-Form 4, 145 days. So the E-Form 4 average has about tripled in length. And the E-Form 1 average has about doubled in length. Now, why is that? Well, I think a lot of reasons. I think for one, just the absolute volume of new forms in the system. When people realized they could get suppressors much quicker, a lot more people got suppressors. A lot of people got suppressors for the first time because a big turnoff to getting the suppressor is, paying a lot of money for something, paying a $200 tax stamp, and then having to wait up to a year or more to get it. That sucks. There's not really anything else that you buy that you pay, $1,000 and then you wait a year before you even get to take it home, which topic for another video, but that's just a ridiculous process for something that just makes your gun quieter and frankly more safe. So a lot more people bought suppressors for the first time, but also people that already were in the NFA game. A lot of people stocked up on suppressors. I saw tons of people getting batch approvals for 3, 5 suppressors at a time. And where they get the money to afford that many suppressors at once, I don't know, but I need to get into that line of work. But yeah, tons of people bought suppressors. It even got to the point where people stopped being able to find the suppressors that they wanted in stock anymore because the manufacturers could barely keep up with the supply or with the demand. They could not keep the supply up with the demand, which I think is good. The more people that own suppressors, the more they are in common use. And when we're fighting against the NFA, it's going to be really hard to argue against however many millions of suppressors are owned by the general law-abiding public. It's pretty much impossible to say that they're not in common use at this point. But again, not really what this video is about. So the Form 1 wait times now average about 2 months. So I'm a little over a month on mine right now, so I'm going to be patient. I've learned to be patient with the NFA thing because I generally don't get those quick approvals anyway. While the ATF system has gotten much quicker, once they get an approval from the NICS background check system, if your NICS background check doesn't come back quickly, well, then the ATF approval can't even get started. Luckily, I have found a way around that a little bit. And I did a video about this and a lot of people commented and tried exactly what I said and it worked for them. But if you've been waiting a long time for your suppressor approval, well, there is an email and it is nixliaison@fbi.gov. Email them with your permit control number and ask them what's taking so long and you might just get an approval the next morning. I did for 2 suppressors when I did that. It was the second time I tried it, but it worked the second time. I'll probably wait another month until I get to the average wait time for a Form 1 before I email them again, because honestly, I expect these things to take time, at least for me. For some reason, I just don't get quick NICS approvals. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If I go into the gun store to buy a gun, sometimes I'm approved right then and there. Sometimes I go to lunch and they call me while I'm at lunch. A couple times I've been approved the next day, and one time it even took like a week. So I was put on a delay. So it's kind of all over the place. And I've got an idea of why, but again, topic for another video maybe. My point being that, yes, things are starting to take longer again, but they're nowhere near as long as they used to be. So I still think that it's a good time to buy suppressors. I still think that it's a good time to do SBRs. Do I think that we should have to do these kinds of things? Absolutely not. You should be able to walk into any store and buy a suppressor off the shelf. You should be able to use whatever barrel length you want and put a stock on it without having to ask the government for permission. To me, all of that is totally ridiculous. I mean, part of the whole thing with the Second Amendment is that we're basically supposed to be able to have the same weapons that the military uses. And Mark 18 is literally a clone of an actual military weapon. It's got a 10.3-inch barrel, and they use it. And they don't use it with a pistol brace. They use it with a stock. There is no reason we shouldn't be able to just have a gun like this without having to pay for tax stamps. 2 tax stamps on a gun like this. That's $400 to give the government just to set this gun up the way that I want it to be. To me, I think that that is totally ridiculous, but it is also the reality of the world that we live in right now, at least the country that we live in right now. It's really the only way to be able to purchase a suppressor. It's pretty hard to get around that tax stamp unless you're building your own Form 1 suppressor. Now, the thing with the stock and the pistol brace, I mean, do what you want, really. But because I have this YouTube channel, I'm not about to put a stock on this and have an illegal SBR on a YouTube channel for the whole world to see. So I have to do what I have to do because of that. And so right now I'm waiting, and I'm going to keep waiting. And I want to know from you guys how many of you are still waiting and how many of you have gotten quick approvals lately. Let us know down in the comments how long your suppressors and your Form 1 SBRs are taking right now so that we can give all the viewers a better idea of how things are going now, because it was kind of exciting when things got really fast for a while, and it seems like it is kind of slowed back down a little bit, which I expected to happen at some point. As long as it doesn't get back to where it's going to take a freaking year to get a suppressor, well, then we're still doing better than we were. But 145 days average for an E-Form 4 right now, I mean, that's like 5 months. So really, how quick are these again? It's an average. So some people are getting them in days still, I'm sure. And there's still those people that have been waiting over a year, which if you're one of those people, let us know down in the comments. I feel terrible for you because I know how that wait is. But at least when you do get approved, it's going to be like Christmas morning. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. Make sure you subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical. Again, let me know down in the comments how quick your approvals have been lately. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.